Trying to remember how to do this. Let's see. All right, we're welcoming people in. I don't want that up there because y'all need to see. Do that like right there. There we go. Welcome everybody to It Doesn't Take Millions to Be a Queen. If you've been tracking along with our series so far, thank you. And we are just continuing on today in our series, and we're going to be just kind of networking for a little bit here till about, so it's 12 CST or CDT right now in Texas, and we're going to continue to chat for next 10 minutes or so. So if y'all have any, I guess, deals that you want to pitch, or if you have any help that you need, this is a good time to network with the other individuals who are on the call. I'm going to move that. So there's 12 people right now on the call. Let's see, is that better or is this better? Doesn't matter. Okay, cool. Anyway, yeah, there's about 12 people on the call. So if you guys want to, like I said, deal pitch or tell us kind of where you need help, there's other people in the call. And then also, if you go down to or up to, mine's up, the little menu bar that talks about, or it says like video, participants, Q&A, stuff like that. If you click on participants, then you can see who is all in the group. And there's a button where you can raise your hand. So if you want me to answer a question like Q&A through what we're going through, then I'll get to that at the very end. But that will keep track of all of the people who want to speak, or if we get to the, or right now, if you want to speak, you can raise your hand, and then we know what questions you may have, or like deals you want to pitch. So let me go to our next slide. So this is what today's going to look like. And again, raise your hand or whatnot if you want to chat, but we'll do a welcome and networking kind of like we're doing now. Then we'll go through mindset and market update. So say the multifamily and single family market. Now, I actually did not do the single family market update, but as far as on the slides, but if you want, I wrote an article about it, so I can switch to that on our screen if you want, or I could just tell you kind of what happened last month. Charts and graphs are cool, but it's, I think everyone's here for the summary. So REIQ, we'll go through who is real estate IQ, number one in deal finding at the end of our presentation. And then Q&A. So the timing may change a little bit because I did a little bit shorter of a presentation today, because what I really wanted to do was get more feedback from everybody, kind of see what they're seeing, what questions people have, etc. So yeah, feel free to raise your hand if y'all have any deal finding. If you're new to Zoom, this is hopefully helpful for you. So like I mentioned earlier, on that bar, you'll have like the chat button, the raise hand, to kind of just went over that, Q&A. And then as we go, there's going to be polls, and it'll pop up kind of like this. I don't know if you can see that window. I think you can. And it will tell you what questions that we're asking, just like this. And you'll hit answer. Unfortunately, I'm trying right now, and hosts and panelists can't vote, but I wish I could, because one thing we're going to do when you answer every single poll we have or question we have, we actually are going to be doing, I don't think no, it's not there, prizes. So we'll do prizes. And we can discuss later what those are, but yeah, you'll see that pop up. So if you're new to Zoom, hopefully this is helpful. And then I'll get to this in a second. Okay, we've got a couple of questions, I think, or comments in the chat. All panelists, let's see. Leslie, hey there, how can I have access to the last 3 meetings? So let me take some notes, or maybe our moderator could help with this and follow up at the end. So basically, I actually created, or Real Estate IQ created a individual network for apartment investors on Real Estate IQ's website. On the website, there's a recording of all the past weeks that have been going by so far. Plus, if there's any links I said I would leave for you, or any web pages or data or anything like that, that can be found there too. And so I actually can't remember the name of it, but when you go to realestateiq.com and then you go into, I think it's Marketplace, and then you go to groups, under groups, if you type in apartment when you're searching, it's the only one. So I think it's apartment investors, something like that. But yeah, so there's, oh, there we go. Sorry. In the chat, y'all can see there is the REIQ group. And then I also I'll ask this at the end, But just so you know, for reference, and I'll reference this again, but also on that page, there's a quiz that I'm going to mention at the end of the presentation, and the link to that quiz is also in the same group. So the group is literally just like, it's a Facebook, but for apartment investing, and then also real estate IQ. So you have that resource, and we'll go through a little bit more about them at the end, and kind of, well, at the beginning too, what they do. So hopefully that answered. Yeah, if y'all have any questions, there's about 17 people on the call right now. Feel free to ask anything, or like I said, this is your shot to market a deal you have. Raise your hand if you want to speak, and I can then unmute you. I don't know where everybody is that's on the call, but I'm in Texas, and it's really like, it's been raining. It's been kind of dreary, but be proud of me. I got in my workout this morning. I did some kickboxing, so it's not that bad. You have to take care of yourself right now. Let's see. I think I should have some music on. But yeah, I'm looking at the chats if y'all have any questions, or if you want to hit raise your hand in the participants window. We are here to network for a little bit. Don't be shy, y'all. If you're, looking for deals, or if you have deals to sell, or if you need leads, well, we'll talk about that through here. Then that's the cool thing about being in here, is everyone can help each other. Oh, I see a hand raised. Okay, Steven. Okay, one second. Got it. Can you hear me, Steven?
I can. Can you hear me, Kaylee?
Yeah, got it. Okay, so if you have anything, go for it.
Okay, just a quick question for you. We got our start, my partner and I, in single family wholesaling, and we want to move into multifamily wholesaling, especially duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes, knowing that those small multifamily will still be competitive, but hopefully at least a little bit less competitive for wholesaling in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and give us a better fighting chance. Do you have any sense of is it still super competitive to wholesale and find deals for duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes in the Dallas-Fort Worth market?
Well, to be super honest with you, Stephen, I have never purchased one. I went from 1 unit to 50. So
okay.
I skipped that stage. But when I looked at the market update, like I'm going to kind of cover a little bit later, as far as I am a residential broker. So I have access in Dallas, Fort Worth, Tyler, kind of around Dallas, to that market data. And so what I did see, because you want to look at, they don't let you put larger than about 20 units, I think is what I saw in here before they pull it off the MLS. But when I'm looking at fourplexes and things like that, because I had, or I have a rental, I was thinking about cash out refining and then using that to put it into something like that. When I did look at it, what I'm seeing over the last month, or really since like COVID's been an issue, because that's really kind of what you want to pay attention to, things are changing. So far, yeah, it's competitive. It's always super competitive for investments. And especially competitive across the board, because it's been a bull market. So meaning that like pretty much you like build something, they will come. If you can almost speculatively invest, which is not how we invest. So a lot of people were in the market buying, selling, whatnot. So now everything is kind of slowed down. And that's really the trend that I saw for the last 60 days or so, is that there really were just a measly number in the DFW area of new listings, and pretty much every single one of them was sold. It wasn't that there was a big gap between what's incoming and what's outgoing, but the thing I saw was when it came to option period and when it came to closing, there were a lot of people kind of stuck in that phase. Normally you'll see option period, there aren't that many because it's like 3 days, 7 days, something like that. So I think option periods have been longer, and people have been having difficulties with the lending side of things because all of a sudden that changed, right? So with me too, now I have to bump my score up another 20 points to be able to cash out refi at a decent rate on that house. So I got to wait a couple of weeks. But so people were probably already qualified, or maybe they ran out of qualification, had to get requalified right after COVID hit, and all the banks kind of changed their their standards. So I'm just seeing that it's really slow is really what I'm seeing. So as far as wholesaling, I don't know about wholesaling because I've only ever assigned something. I had a wholesale thing, but I just gave it to someone else. I didn't want to deal with it. So my understanding of wholesaling is that basically you have something that someone wants to get rid of, and then you give it to somebody else, and then you have a fee kind of in between. It's kind of like assignment, but a little different. And then the thing is where do you get your wholesale leads from? Do you get them from off-market leads or on-market leads? So I have access to on-market data. So that's the on-market stuff. The off-market stuff, I couldn't give you a good metric on that. But up until COVID, it's been very competitive. And then now I think is a good opportunity. Like we're going to kind of talk a little bit today about mindset and kind of like trying to be an intelligent investor and think almost backwards to what your gut is telling you to do. Because I know things are scary and they're weird and they're unknown, but it's like that to everybody. You're not alone. So like 70% of people or so are probably pulling back and saying, well, not right now. I don't know how this is going to go. So I would think that it would be probably less competitive right now. If you can get qualified for the financing. The downside, and why I went from single family to multi, like big multi, was because you still have to personally qualify for a duplex, fourplex, whatever. It's still 1 to 4 families. So you still, the lending on that building is still based on your debt to income ratio. It's still based on your credit score. Whereas when you go to multifamily, it's based on, like big multifamily, it's based on the income of the property and the business performance. Yeah, you have to have a decent credit score, but it's nothing crazy. So, and then again, you have other partners that, you know, you can balance it out with. So I guess hopefully that answered that it's probably less competitive right now. So now would be a good time to start marketing to people.
Okay, just a quick follow-up question, if I could, and this probably has, you know, a way detailed answer, but if you have maybe a few sentences of, you know, we have the ability to wholesale virtually anywhere in the country. Is there any, you know, recommendations that you have for picking a market that's less competitive? I mean, we can do one where there's not much activity, but that probably also means we wouldn't find necessarily, you know, end buyers to actually assign our wholesale contracts to either. So kind of a catch-22.
Yeah, so it's probably the same thing as investing in general. You always have to have, like, the way you buy it is with the exit in mind. So yeah, you're right. You always have to think about where am I going to be able to have an end buyer. For us in multifamily, it's really important that we stick to a market that's landlord friendly, tax friendly, and business friendly. Again, this little like in-betweener thing that you're wanting to do is kind of like, it's not like a business and it's not a single family house. So it's a really interesting hybrid where the types of people that are usually buying them are investors, but they're not like big time investors. So what was your question one more time? It was,
I'm trying to find a market that's maybe not as competitive as Dallas-Fort Worth to find duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes to wholesale and still be able to find end cash buyers to assign our contract to.
yeah, I would think, I don't know, but one thing I've seen is there's a couple of interesting markets like Nashville, like I'd have to go back and look at Ohio. There's like one city in Ohio that seems to be pretty, like it's moving. Let's see, I wouldn't do Oklahoma. It's just nuts.
When you say not Oklahoma, what's the reason for that?
It's a long answer, but basically it's coming from a multifamily perspective, tax perspective. But basically it's not a good place for us to do business long-term. The market just doesn't bear, like there's not enough people moving in, basically. And there's one market there that's decent, but it's just not going to make, like our biggest concern is making it through a recession or a depression. So we have to buy with the end in mind and pretending like everything's wrong when we buy it, you know? So there could be a few markets like that, like littler markets, not major prime markets. Or honestly, if you could, I think it's still competitive, but you may be able to slither in right now because again, it's like people are pulling back. If you can get the financing personally for it, that's what I was saying. Like if it's a business, like you don't have to personally finance it, the bank will. But like a secondary market. So we're looking at that for multifamily. So for example, like Dallas is primary, Houston's primary, whatever. But in Dallas, for example, if you're looking right outside in a secondary market, so maybe like we've seen some deals in like Greenville, Texas. That may be a possibility. They've had lots of growth, but again, I don't buy duplexes and fourplexes, so I don't really know anything besides you look at your ROI because like based on how much cash you're putting in and based on what the bank will lend. And again, you have to personally qualify for that. But I don't really, as long as people are renting, they're fine. But again, you just have to find a really good rental market. So for me, people that are coming in because of a new industry, jobs. So, you know, some of the things we look at are population growth, income growth, house value growth, low crime. And there's one more. Did I say job growth? But job growth and population growth are two of the biggest ones. So if I don't see that, it's not a market that I could for sure always get a renter, AKA find an end buyer, because they know that what they're buying is good. So
Sure.
kind of
Okay,
I would say
great.
secondary
Thanks.
market.
Got
So I
it.
had to
Thank
think of that because I've never answered that before. Okay, one more. Let's see. Steven, how do you think COVID will affect people who live in apartments? Will people be hesitant to live in close quarters? I'm going to answer that at the end, but really short summary. There's a lot of effects that we'll have, but what we're seeing right now, we can only go week to week, day to day, really. So far, I would say that people are hesitant to come out of their apartment for sure. But everything that we have purchased, we've been very blessed or very lucky, I guess, that everything we have right now is all individual HVAC. So when you're dealing with some kind of disease that has aerosols, or I don't know the word for it, but it's little particles that are in the air that get through the ventilation system, they get through the plumbing system, all that kind of stuff. If all the plumbing and if all of the HVAC AC, they're all individual. And again, with the plumbing, like PVC piping, it's the metal that the virus will go through, and then it will attach to other metal, and then it will go into your unit and stuff like that. That's where China had problems. But long story short, I think that what's interesting is people may be hesitant, but because of financial need, they're going to have to move into tighter pack spaces. But again, going with a complex that might take more precaution as far as changing out the filters, making sure each unit is HVAC, individual HVAC, properties that may add in like some sanitizing chemicals. I have a buddy who owns a company that it's a chemical that you put in cars usually. But basically what it does is it fills in all the pores or on the surface at a macro or micro level. And then that's where viruses live. They go into dark surfaces and they proliferate. So this chemical has been used in cars for years. It's approved by the EPA. So places that go the extra mile to make sure that the residents are safer, I think those will attract people, but based on financial need, they have to downsize, get out of a house, not have a down payment. They need to move into apartments. So we're also offering things or working on plans where people like in our larger units that are downstairs, we're building little yards so people have their own individual space. So again, just finding the properties that go the extra mile to do a little bit more to not have such a importance on a common area. And again, clean regularly and all that kind of stuff. Online payments are good. So there's more. I'll get to that then. All right, let's get rolling. Thank you guys for the questions. I appreciate it. And again, we'll have more at the end. So icebreaker. So what is my why? I want to cover that in really a brief sentence. So in everything that I do, really what is important to me is creating independence. Especially for women when it comes to their financials. So for me, I've been able to do that through cash flowing real estate, whether that was, a tenant living in a home that I have that I'm renting, or whether that's in our apartments. Either way, and even I've done house notes and certain things that regardless, it's cash flow that you're seeing in your account every month. And cash flow is also awesome because it offsets your active income taxes. So I won't get too far into that, but it's very powerful. So you get into a place where investing helps you to be able to be more financially free. And so if you have a certain place you think you have to live, or a certain person you think you have to be with, or a certain, even like, the old me, I used to think I had to behave a certain way or have a certain persona. And it just gives me the freedom to literally just be me and to go after my why, which is giving that experience to other women, especially because, I don't want to go too far into it, but imagine what would happen if 50% of our population was really pushed hard to use the full capacity and capability of what we have to offer. Imagine what we could do as a planet, so that's my why. So like I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a raffle. And so whenever, and I know there's some late joiners, so we're going to have a pop-up window that you'll see, and it's going to be a questionnaire, what do you call it? It's a poll. So you have to answer every question on the poll, and then you'll be entered into the raffle. And like I mentioned earlier, you can be one of the lucky winners in the weekly draw, and you'll be contacted by the team after you win. So stay tuned, of course, for the whole thing. And again, like I mentioned, Real Estate IQ, #1 in deal finding. That's who is sponsoring this event today. Thank you very much to Real Estate IQ. They bring in 45,000 leads every month. So you can have some of that. Let's play this little testimonial and then keep going.
I'm here with Adam at Redneck Country Club at the lending event, and Adam has been using our system for a while. Adam, could you share with us your experience with our tool?
Yeah, so I love the tool. It's really been very useful for me as a new investor. I don't have access to the MLS, so running comps was something that was a problem. Now that I have the tool, I can run comps. It allowed me to secure my first deal. And I'm going to market with it and look to, because of the comps that I was able to run and get it for the right price, I was able to secure a deal that's probably going to profit me somewhere north of $50,000.
Oh, fantastic. And by the way, we can also help you market your deal too, Adam. Thank you so much. And guys, our deal analysis suite is only $15 a month, and it's for unlimited comps all over Texas. So make sure you take advantage of this special right now. Thank you, guys.
If you want to learn how to analyze deals just like us, make sure you check out this webinar on how to run comps. The link is below. We'll also introduce.
If y'all want that link, you can leave a message, or if you guys missed it in the very beginning, there is a group, and it should be actually in the chat where you can see the link to it. And it's actually the link to my new group inside Real Estate IQ's website, and it's, I think, called Apartment Investors. So if you have any questions about needing anything, or, I promise to give you a link if you'll follow up in there, just click on the link in the chat, and then you'll be able to have access to the forum, if you will. All right, speaker today, Kaylee, me. So this is me. Oh, look, wait, there's a poll question. Y'all answer the poll, especially if you want to win some free stuff. I'll give y'all like 30 seconds to answer the poll. Because I can't vote. All right, so let's get going. So this is me, Kaylee McMahon. This is me when I have done my hair. I no longer do anymore because we're inside. But anyway, I'm the founder of the Apartment Queen, and it's the name of my company. We have around 720 doors, AUM, or Assets Under Management, as general partner, key principal, or lead investor. I have a passion, like I mentioned earlier, for helping others create independence. And so I have been able to do that through cash flowing real estate. So it's just a really, it's been exponential how quickly things have gone when I've created passive income via real estate versus some other means I've done. All right, guys, so wake up. If you're watching right now, part of this is going to be my webinar about the market, which will come kind of in there as we go, but mostly mindset. So we've already done one presentation on mindset, and that presentation was kind of based on my history and past and what it took to get to where I was starting in real estate and then to start really see some success. Now, this is kind of for present times, right? So I want to kind of work on what you're seeing out there, what's in the market, what that's probably doing to your brain, and how to deal with it. So it's scary times. I get it. Every Sunday, I swear, I'm like, what is this week going to bring? I don't know what changes we're going to see. I don't know what good or bad or whatnot. So I want to go ahead and just get it out of the way and share 4 shocking facts. So currently, we are not able to evict or foreclose on any tenants that we have right now. So that's what I do for a business. So of course, that's why I mentioned that. 2, banks are now limiting their lending. So obviously that puts a monkey wrench in the things that you were doing before. So say if you had a certain deal flow and certain lenders that you normally work with, and they no longer can lend, things are changing. You're probably asking yourself, how could I possibly be raising money right now? Like, that's pretty scary. Like for me, in my deals, you're like, okay, do I even do deals? Are people going to give me their money, or are they hoarding their money right now? What's going on? And another shocking fact, people are dying. But I think you guys probably knew all of this, and if not, hopefully that's helpful. Are you scared? Good. So what I want you to do is work on your mindset. Use it to your advantage. So what you want to do always is trying to find ways to pivot and try to find ways to find out how to turn those challenges that I just mentioned and more, there's plenty more, turn them into opportunities. And I try to always do that. So if you think about an incoming problem that's coming at you, if you are solution focused versus being problem focused, you're a true leader and you're going to move forward and you're going to get somewhere. That's literally what it takes, right? Is for you to just pivot your thinking and then look at it from another lens, if you will. So let me show you how we are using fear to our advantage. Okay, so you can't evict. That's pretty scary, right? And that comes with a whole slew of BS that I've heard from other people. Literally, someone was texting me last night like, well, you know, people are just not paying. I'm like, that is not what's going on my property. We're over collections that we normally are, actually. And that's 6 properties that I'm looking at in different markets: Arizona, Texas, Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, West Texas. So the whole gamut. But anyway, so you can't evict. Normally eviction, I get it, is used to make people pay the rent. So if you let that fear, though, control you instead of acting, that you're going to be in a really bad position. So don't let that fear stop you. Use that to your advantage. So whenever you have a situation that is a challenge, it's really in your key interest to be flexible. So not having hard and fast rules. I've learned that lesson many times where I thought, you know, when I did, for example, a background check on people when they're coming into lease, I have learned over and over again, you know what, if someone has shitty credit, pardon my French, but if someone has bad credit, it doesn't necessarily mean they shouldn't rent at your apartment. What if, you know, people go through divorces, right? People go through, they go through stuff in life. They have student loans. There's stuff that happens, right? But if you're someone that's looking at their rental history and they're not a criminal, and they've always been on time with the rental payments, lease to them. I mean, why not? They're going to take care of you. And again, of course, you know, checking what industry their job is important too. But what we did whenever we saw that we couldn't evict, the first thing that we did, you have to have a plan, right? And you have to execute, be empathetic. So the biggest things to do whenever you're dealing with evictions, particularly that we did, was, like I said, having a plan. Being empathetic, again, reminding everybody rent is still due, and then coming up with creative solutions. So some things that we did was we basically messaged everybody an email and a notice, letting them know we're aware of what's going on with COVID. We're aware of the government's changes and what we can do in our courts. And we basically said, here is a list of all the different community assistance programs that our community has. Here's website links to food pantries. Here's website links to get jobs. For example, in Dallas, you know, I've had a lot of realtor friends of mine turn into working for Amazon. Like, there are definitely other opportunities and people hiring, but putting that right in front of them, and also showing them in that email, for example, the link or the paper, you know, the website URL, but basically how you apply for food stamps, how you apply for unemployment income, how you apply for unemployment. And then now what's even cooler is this time unemployment doesn't just mean, you know, someone that worked for somebody else and they got fired or they lost their job. This is affecting everybody, literally. And so obviously we know, if you've been following along, there's extra stimulus money when it comes to unemployment. So it also applies to 1099 workers, even self-employed people that had a stream of business that they had, or 2 or whatever, and they just got cut off because now we have to be 100% digital. So, so there's assistance programs for everybody in our apartment. So making them aware of that, again, reminding them that rent is still due, and because you're one of our tenants, we want to work with you. So reach out to us if anything happens. We'll also do a few things, which are just kind of no-brainers, but you know, I've just had a lot of friends that I've heard that are just not doing anything, and it's hurting them really bad. So, for example, we waived our late fees. We're like, you know what, we're not going to charge if your rent's late for the next couple of months, and we're just probably going to keep continuing that until this is done, or until there's some kind of recovery, which is no big deal. You know, what we just do in exchange for that is we do a promise to pay. So if you think you could pay on the 1st, on the 15th, on the 3rd, wherever you think you can pay, basically we just have our tenants put it on a piece of paper, or we have a pre-established document. They will put down when their promises to pay are. Cool. We'll copy their ID and get a signature, and that's it. So they promise to pay on those days. And, so far we have had only one person that has taken advantage of the system, if you will. So you always have to think positively. Again, your mindset kind of projects out there what you're going to get. So if you're like, they're going to pay, I wrote on my whiteboard that we're going to collect 20,000 what odd dollars by this date and this date from this apartment. So I'm looking at it every day, so, and guess what happened? We did. So anyway, being flexible is key. So what we also did, because for us, whenever we had a vacant unit, that's kind of scary, right? But you just bring in more traffic, and luckily for us, it's still leasing season. It is. So we waived app fees so we could get more people to apply to move in. And now literally as of last night, was today, Saturday, Friday, on 2 of our apartments that we were struggling with, and I changed managers and kind of took over some things. We now have 1 unit vacant on each building. Woohoo! So anyway, waiving those app fees and getting advertising out there, bringing people in. Even though it's scary, people are still looking. They always will be. People need a place to live, They might, like I said, move from a house to an apartment, and then we have 2-bedroom apartments, and there might be 4 people living in there. That's fine. You know what I mean? Like, taking on a roommate is a great idea. Live below your means. Anyway, but people still have to live somewhere. So also what we've done is usually you have a deposit account. So on your apartment, you'll put down a deposit when you move in and then have that account, right? And there's like a pet deposit, some other things. We're actually allowing, if we get to that point after they've applied for things, they've shown us proof that COVID's affected their work, they were laid off, and then we've also done the no late fees. It's still not enough. Then we'll let them dip into that deposit account and use a certain amount to pay their rent right now. And then what we just do is in the future, we'll write it out again, like a addendum or a change to their lease, where we'll say, okay, that $500, we're going to add that in the future to your lease, but it will be paid off starting 3 months from now, equal over, the next 12 months of your lease or however long their lease is. So it's an extra $10 a month or something, but paid later in their agreement. So another thing is, we haven't let this ruling paralyze us either, because our mindset's been, okay, well, what can we do? What effect can we have to take care of the people who have been taking care of us? So we did pizzas the night before the 1st of this month, May. And so, like I said, we're 100%, so we are 100% collected minus 2 promise to pay. So technically collected, but not 100%, 95, but same thing. But those 2 people just have promises to pay. So anyway, but good news, guess what? As of 5/14 in the Texas Tribune, eviction proceedings in Texas, because of the governor's ruling, and debt collections can resume this month. Texas Supreme Court ordered that. So that's great news. But luckily for us, we really haven't had a whole lot of issues with it. So I think it's all about, how you choose to attack the situation. So again, you can't evict. Okay, cool. And then you can't, like loans are changing every week, and you can't get financing for things. Well, again, it's time to be creative. And the biggest key, I think, right now is focusing on what you do have. So whenever you're becoming resilient, resiliency is something where, again, you don't focus on what you don't have. It's focusing on what you do have. And when you focus on that, that helps you to be grateful, to build what you have. And anyway, so it's the same thing when it comes to lending, I think. So I will give you a multifamily example. Single family is basically a little bit different, but it's very simple. It's, 700 to 720-ish is what you kind of need at this point to be able to be qualified to lend or to do a refi cash out, to do a regular mortgage, etc. But when it comes to agency debt, so that's what this says. So agency means Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac debt or loans on an apartment building. We always want non-recourse debt, which means if there's stuff that happens in the partnership or in the building, or there's a lawsuit and it just goes to crap, the apartment will get taken back by the lender, and we're not personally liable as sponsors and investors for what happened to the property. The bank will just take it back, and then they figure out what to do with it. So, that doesn't mean that, if someone's a bad actor, so if there's embezzlement, things like that, then it can become recourse. But anywho, we normally want a non-recourse debt structure. So right now that's changed a lot, and we're all, in my industry in multifamily, we're going, oh my God, well, how much money do we need to raise? What percentage is the leverage? What LTV do we need to put into our underwriting now? It's changed. And, now they have reserves that they want you to put aside. So that means you have to have a heck of a lot more cash raised. So what we're hearing right now is like Fannie and Freddie both, Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae, they're both as multifamily requiring 6 to 12 month P&I escrow reserves. So that means principal and interest. What they're asking, and again, it's over here, but they're both asking different things. But basically what they want you to do is take 6 to 12 months worth of the payments, so principal and interest, and put it aside in a locked up escrow account where you can't touch that stuff until you meet certain standards inside the loan, right? So I kind of covered that over here on the right side where, by the way, those reserves can be released after 1 year if the property attains a 1.2 or 1.35 DSCR, which is debt service coverage ratio. So meaning if you look at what your income is every month, and then you look at what you're paying out, not what you're paying out, but what you're paying out in your mortgage, what percentage is your debt covering over what you have to pay in your mortgage every month? That's your DSCR. So, well, guess what? Go look for an apartment that beats those numbers. Like, there's your solution. And what's cool about that? So, for example, people would be lending, or Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac would lend down to 1.25% DSCR. So I've got 2 apartments right now that when we bought them, they're over 2%, not 2%, but 2% DSCR. So meaning that there's a larger spread between what we had to pay to keep the lights on every month and what we're making in income. So because of that larger spread, it's a more conservative purchase. So we were like, okay, if stuff goes bad later, well, we have a lot of room, it's okay. So that just means just find deals that are a higher DSCR. Pretty easy, if you ask me. And then again, find other ways around it. There's always a way around stuff. So you got to read all the writing. And this is very summarized. Like I've read pages and pages of stuff, capital markets reports for the last 2 weeks, really trying to stay up to date because it's changing. But literally this week. So what it's been till now is that talking about these lending loans is that market rate properties, so something you buy market rate, less than 55% leverage has been to where you have to, less than 55%. So if you're lending at 45%, 50%, 54.5% loan to value ratio is LTV, then you're exempt. You don't even have to have those reserves at all. So again, what we need to be targeting buying properties by putting up more cash. So again, yes, it's going to become harder to buy properties if you don't have those reserves, but you're buying on a more conservative level, if you will, if you're entering into something. And that's how we should have been buying anyway. I've got friends that have been buying where it's a smaller DSCR, debt service coverage ratio, with 55% leverage, 60% leverage anyway, and so they get better interest terms. They get interest only for 10 years and a 10-year loan term. Anyway, I'm just so nerdy about this stuff that I'll try not to spend too much time, but actually as of this week, like I remember I said that every week things are changing. So as of this week, as of May 12th, 60% LTV or lower, Freddie Mac has now waived those reserves again. So now I actually have a 1031 exchange I'm going to be spending pretty soon here. And so when I'm looking at a deal, all that means is instead of buying something that's closer to like 5 million or maybe 5.5 million or maybe even 6 if I raise some money, I'm targeting properties that it's like a total purchase like 3.5 million. So that I meet that 60%, and also only buying deals that meet that coverage ratio for the debt. So problem solved. Again, just switch your mindset and things can still be done, but you just have to change your model. It's not always going to be how it's been in the past. With changing times, you have to change your strategy. And I think the awesome thing about the way that this is, at least they're still lending, guys. Like now is like a great opportunity. In 08, 09, they stopped lending. So the only people that were able to buy were people that had millions and millions in cash. So this is a great time, I think. And rates are super duper duper low in multifamily, depending on, again, we're changing from LIBOR, Lending Interest Bank. It's basically the standard that we use to, sorry, I don't want to get into all that, but basically there's a rate that we use to lend on. And now the rates plus LIBOR, you're starting at like high 2s, for lending rates from Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. And you're topping out at probably like low 4s, So, I mean, it's a great time to lend. Even Warren Buffett said it if you watched his, recent Berkshire Hathaway yearly annual meeting. And then here, the other challenge is that we're seeing, okay, now no first-time sponsors. So meaning like if this was my first deal, this would not be a good time to do one on my own. So guess what? Again, switch your thinking. Now's a great time to focus on building solid partnerships and not rushing. Those partners are going to become your biggest ally. Whenever I have had somebody in my life that has taught me everything I know, and then later on I did a deal, but ended up doing another deal with them, me leveraging our partnership together and who I am and them knowing me so well and like knowing me at my core. Like you got to be honest and like, ethically, I feel like this, I'm struggling with this, like, this is happening to my family. Like you have to really build that solid partnership. And now's a great time to figure that out and then be able to leverage that person's, net worth and things like that and create a partnership. They don't even have to necessarily do a deal with you. If they believe in you enough, they'll just sign on the loan. That happened to me, and then let you do your thing. And then know that when you don't know what you're doing, you'll ask questions, or you'll bring in the professionals that do know. You have to build those relationships. Now is a great time to do it. And guess what that'll get you to is someone with a higher net worth and whatnot. They're going to be able to help you get into a larger project faster. And what that gets you is a more professional property manager, more professional maintenance individuals. It's going to help you to have essentially less work, more success. And then again, when you're buying materials or when you're buying anything, it's economies of scale. So the bigger the property, the more cheap you, or so the increase, whatever, the cheaper your supplies get. So not just supplies, but even electricity services, all kinds of stuff just get cheaper because you get always a volume discount. You can get cable for, half the cost I've seen in the past and stuff like that. So anyway, also the rate lock is another challenge or change that we've seen in agency non-recourse debt. And what that means is pretty much there's always a rate lock time period. So what that means is usually your rates are floating. So that LIBOR rate and certain other things, I won't get into it, but they're floating as the market changes. Every week the market comes on market on Monday, stops on Friday. It changes with that LIBOR or market rate. And so right now, or normally what we've done is you pay a certain amount up front to lock a rate. So you for sure know that your underwriting is 100% accurate, because usually if you didn't lock it, it would just be floating like this, literally up till the week you close, so then all of a sudden they're like, hey, we need another 50K to close. And you're like, what? Like we didn't raise that much. So anyway, a rate lock is awesome. But the thing is they have made that rate lock variable now, meaning that if you are an inexperienced first-time sponsor, you cannot have a rate lock. They won't let you. So you're subject to change basically. So again, if you have an experienced sponsor, an experienced partner or team, Freddie will let you rate lock. So I've got more documents on that if you want it. But so again, just change your thinking. It's time to partner up with people. If you're someone that is, I struggled from going from single family to multifamily because it's all about that mindset of the team. You have to 100% find a solid team that you trust, that you know really well. Then y'all come together and you have a common purpose and you move forward doing the deal. It's really hard actually coming from single family going into a big multi situation, because you're so resilient and you're focused on what you can do, and you're an individual. You're the one that has to look at everything and do everything and pay all the bills and all that stuff. It changes when you get into multifamily. So now is a great time to change your mindset and really lean on a team. All right. So raising money during COVID, people are going, oh my God, how do I raise money right now? Are you kidding me? Like people are hoarding money. How the heck am I going to raise money right now? So this doesn't matter if you're a multifamily person that's raising money as part of a securities offering, or if you're in a JV situation or wanting to JV with somebody and you guys are working with IRA holders or like a retirement account holders, or if you're reaching out to an existing qualified network, whatever, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter what type of deal structure you do, or maybe it's a partnership where, you guys are flipping houses and, you need a partner and you to put into the LLC together to fund the project. Regardless, you usually have to raise money, but what's really cool is you think people might be hoarding their money right now. That's not true at all, at freaking all. Savvy investors in Florida, for example, there was $1 billion raised last month in 3 weeks from blind pool funds, literally last month. And I have several other examples too of the same thing, but there's a lot of hungry capital that's been sitting on the sidelines waiting for good deals. So if you are the person that's hunting the good deals, and it's going to take some work to get them and to get people to pry their hands off of them and all this other stuff, but when you get a good deal, the money will come. So don't be afraid to raise money in this time period at all. You just have to express and know, well, first of all, you have to know what you're doing or providing to them if it meets certain standards, because these people need to have some golden rules. They need to guard their capital with their life right now. But now is a great time to get into something that's going to turn out to be like from the last recession. I'm not saying this will happen right now, but when you got in like 09 ish, 08, then 09, and then you had something till 2015 ish. I have friends that have like literally a 7x return. Like, what? That's insane. But this is that time where you're going to start finding those things, I think, this year. So again, uncertain times provide for proven investments or certain investments. So again, when you are raising capital, when you're talking to your partners about what you're doing, it's so important right now to keep your mindset. So there's a book called The Intelligent Investor, and I can't remember who actually the author is, but I'm reading it right now, and it's one of Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett's favorite books. And it basically talks to you about the aspects of your mindset, because that's really truly what it is. Even if you're buying the stock market, which is speculative, versus buying businesses, which is like private equity and or apartments, we're buying a business. It's the same thing. Your mindset is just like the thing that will either screw up your career or make you. So as an intelligent investor, you have to have certain, what I call principles or standards. You have to base those on statistics and numbers that you have seen over a 30-year long period. Do your freaking research. Talk to an economist. Get involved with lenders. They, like, for example, I've been talking to Berkadia, CBRE, and several other large companies this week, and they have an internal economist. They have internal people that you could just hit up. You don't have to pay someone to get the info from them. But basically having these principles or standards are what is going to help you to thrive through this recession, and I think soon to be depression. So you'll miss large opportunities if you don't have these figured out. So take some time right now and figure these out. Again, look historically. So when you're talking to somebody that is going to be giving you capital for a deal, and they want to invest in your deals, it's important for them to, like I said, protect their hard-earned capital. So they need to have some golden rules for investments. You also need to, flip side, look at these when you're looking for a deal and ask yourself, do these things apply when I'm going to be doing this? You know, because if they do, there's no reason why you shouldn't be 100% confident in having them invest with you, because when these standards are met, like this is what it takes to have success, like I said, through the last depressions and recessions. So buying a currently performing asset through closing. So that is super key when it comes to what your investor is looking at and raising funds right now. So for you as an operator, or you as a passive investor / limited partner, if you're looking at what would be like rent roll, profit and loss statement, if you can sit there and you see an apartment, in my situation, whatever business, but you see an apartment that in this time of like scary stuff or whatever has actually either done better or has stayed consistently collecting, and whatever, it's going to take a creative person to get through this. So when you're looking at an investment to get involved with, how are they doing right now? How have they been doing? Is it currently performing? And again, when we go into buying, we always look at having it perform through closing. So that's something, if you wanted to ask a question, for example, we'll put in our contracts right now that either we need to do a rent escrow. So what that will actually do is that will take the rents that they are currently collecting at the current market rent that they're collecting, and the owner or seller has to put 6 months or however many months you put into the contract worth of that money in an escrow account. So if we get to the point when we purchase it and all of a sudden stuff hits the fan, we have that escrow account to make sure that over a certain period of time, the property will continue to perform. And we need that time period because that's usually for our deals when we start renovating and we start, by the way, we can evict people. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier. So starting Monday, we can continue to move the business plan along, and you want to make sure that it continues to perform through closing. So that may be a question you ask your sponsor. A playbook, so a business plan. So whenever you are presenting something to a current buyer, if you're able to show them, again, a business plan of here's like as a wholesaler and things like that, this doesn't particularly apply, but it's kind of helpful when you're able to hand somebody, a buyer, something where it's like, hey, here's how it's performed in the past. Here's how it's currently doing. Here's, if I was going to hold it, what I would do, what I would execute as a business plan, because here's the current comps in the market. Here's the current market rent. It's this much below current market rent. And so this is a huge opportunity for you. But regardless, just having a business plan or a playbook put together. So we always do this on every offering that we have. So you'll have a slide deck for our announcement of the deal, and we'll go through exactly what our plan is to renovate, how much we're going to spend, and when we're going to exit, all that stuff. Also, another and the last thing that you need to have to make sure you protect your hard-earned capital for investments is operational excellence and a proven project performance. So again, when you are looking at who you're going to be partnering with or who is going to be running the deal, that partner or that company or that sponsor, whatever it is that you're doing, if you can look at their track record, what have you guys owned? What happened to it? What was the end result? Or how are they doing now? For example, you're already in these deals, you know? So if you can see that there's proven project performance, and if these three things are met, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't have extreme success and be able to take advantage of this time. Yes, I hate to say this, but people are dying, but have you? Sit here and think to yourself, are you dead right now? No. Or is it just your business that you're letting die right now? You know, and I hate that because I get it. There's some businesses, like, not really, but there's some businesses that when we went into this period of a lockdown, they couldn't do business anymore. But every single business model that I've thought of, I have a girlfriend that she does radio. I have some friends that just do certain things where either it takes an in-person meeting or there are things that, you know, no longer those people they were marketing to, they're no longer doing that anymore. It's just time to pivot. You know, it's time to go to full acceptance of the fact that the world has 100% changed, and don't let your business die. This is the worst time. I have an agent that took down her website, you know, and I was like, this is not the time to do that. Everybody is freaking online right now. This is the time to increase your marketing budget and then quit spending stupid expenses that aren't necessary, and put it into your business. So, you know, pivot your business. We have definitely done that at this point with multiple businesses, and we're focusing on moving forward, right? So I think personally, this doesn't have to be your belief. But I think if you're taking the recommended precautions that, you know, our leaders are recommending that we take, there's not much more you can do, but you have to continue to live. You know, we have to have hope and we have to experience success, because when your mind, for me personally, if you go for a certain amount of time and you don't get a thumbs up or a yay, you did a good job, or you don't win at something, I kind of get into this phase where I just kind of become, you know, like huddled in the corner, you know, sucking my thumb. And that's not going to help my business do better. That's not going to help my mindset become any more positive at all. So it's important to, you know, do the recommended precautions, but you must continue to live and be respectful of other people and their space and all that good stuff. So that's why I make it so clear to my clients, we're going to continue to be online. We're going to continue to be on the phone, because I would hate it if I was so selfish that I got you sick because I'm not following recommended precautions, you know? So anyway, it's important for us to continue to have success. And this is definitely a time to continue moving forward. Yes, I get it. Things are slowing down. That's okay. That's actually good. But you know, when others are greedy, like we had the last couple of years, be fearful. When others are fearful, when others are fearful, be greedy. I think I did it twice. No, I said it right. When others are greedy, be fearful. And when others are fearful, be greedy. So be greedy, meaning when, like now, when you have people pulling back, not buying as much anymore, or you have people not doing certain things that you want to do in your career in real estate, now is the time to go be greedy and to go get as much as you can. Go get as many deals as you can. It's your turn to be the next great investor. So you kind of have to take that fear and swap it. So my last thing and my last question is, who is interested in becoming qualified for our next multifamily investment? If you are interested in that, like I mentioned, there is a link in the chat where you can go ahead and go to the the Real Estate IQ group. I think it's called Apartment Investors. And the link to that quiz is in there. So if you want to be qualified, just message and I'll make a little note. Oh, look, there we go. This will make it easy. Just kidding. There's a poll. So if you just answer if you want to be, I will get your email after this and I will go ahead and message you that link and or, you know, go into that group that we already have for that. So I'm like, yes. Okay. So I'll give you all like a second to finish that. And then that is the end of my presentation. Now, Becky, I'm going to stop my share and give it to you. It's your turn to talk about how to get leads to do more business.
All right, thank you, Kaylee, for all of that great information. And I'm not on the right screen. I had it and lost it. Sorry about that. Here we go. This is brought to you by Real Estate IQ. We are #1 in deal finding with over 45,000 leads every month for you. These are the people, if you go to any in-person events, you might have seen me in Dallas, Joseph in Austin, San Antonio, Rodney in DFW. We also have some off-market leads in Florida and Georgia, and working on getting the rest of our system there as well. So I do want to talk about our community, and I know Kaylee just mentioned her group, and so I'm going to go out of this and go to our website, which is realestateiq.co. And right here, you can see community. So the first thing you want to do is join it, which you can do on this page or on the community page. I don't think it matters. But once you go to the community, we have a feed, which is like your basic Facebook feeds, except this community is going to be just for real estate investors. But we have these groups. Once you join the community, you can come to this page and join some groups. So here I have a women in real estate group. Kaylee's apartment group is here. Here we go, apartment real estate investors. So you can go here and join the group. And you can also, that's also where we'll post the video of this presentation. So that if you want to go back and look at something or you missed part of it, you can go see the video there. So it'll be posted there in the community. And then, you know, if you're from Houston, join my Houston Deal Finders Lounge, or we have ones for other areas. So wherever you're from, look for a group to join. It's going to be a great place where you can meet other investors. You can also get services you need. So here on our marketplace, if you're looking for coaching or a mentor in something other than apartments, we have funding. So if you're looking for money for your deals, other vendors like title companies, property management companies. And then if you're looking for passive investments into notes, we have a section for that as well. And then here on our events page, you can see our next upcoming events and register for any of our free events and webinars.
I have notes, by the way, like for passive notes, just FYI, like they're awesome. So I'll just say that.
All right, Kaylee, you should go add a listing to our notes page.
Well, I mean, like I'm a passive investor in them. So I would buy them. Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
I don't have to do anything. It's great.
And then our tools is where you can see more information about our products, request a demo, sign up for our freebies. We'll give you an opportunity to do that in just a minute as well. So I'm going to go back here to the presentation. Okay, here we go. So Real Estate IQ, we have our deal analysis suite. So if you're looking to run comps, these are MLS, this brings in data directly from the MLS, updated every hour so that you can run your own comps on single family and also multifamily properties as well. And we have a deal analyzer and repair estimator. Those are those are mostly for just single family, but I'll talk about the commercial and apartment ones in just a minute. You can also get a daily updated list of motivated and distressed sellers. So the people that need to sell their homes for some reason, you can get lists there that come directly from the courts. They're updated daily, Monday through Friday. And we have these 10 lists. We have pre-foreclosures, appointment of substitute trustee, which is kind of a pre-foreclosure, probate heirship, evictions, divorce, Loan modifications, there's going to be a lot of those coming up because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac told, well, their loans are not allowed to collect, to demand all, so all, I'm having blah, blah, blah. Let me start over. After Harvey in Houston, there was a forbearance and mortgage companies said, okay, you don't have to pay your mortgage for 6 months. But then on month 7, they wanted to collect all 7 months worth of mortgage payments. And obviously a lot of people weren't able to save that to do that. And so Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac came back right now and said, just a week or two ago, they came out and said that their mortgagors are not allowed to do that. So there'll have to be some, either add the payments to the end of the loans, which some might do, or do some kind of a modification to help them pay. So I think the loan modifications is going to go up quite a bit.
Yeah,
and the majority of those fail as well.
On multifamily, they're making you, or you have the option to pay it over 12 months once it's done. But while you're in forbearance, because you could keep going into forbearance, if you are in forbearance, you cannot evict. So however long you choose to stay in forbearance, you can evict. So even after like the Texas has lifted evictions, if you're in forbearance, you still can't. So yeah, but you could pay it over 12 months if you ask for it.
Okay, so they're just taking the 2 or 3 months that you couldn't pay and splitting it up over the next year. Okay, awesome. All right, liens are just, somebody's put a lien on the house. It's kind of a signal of financial difficulty. Code violations, delinquent taxes, and tax sale list. We have 5 of these on our commercial off-market leads list, which basically means it's any of these filings where the property is owned by a commercial entity. So you're going to find all kinds of things on that list, multifamily, retail, as well as some single family as well. So, and then our premium package, which are the ones that have the little stars by them, those come with the skip tracing already done. So they've already got phone numbers and email addresses. So you can call, text, email, ringless voicemail drop, and try to get to those motivated sellers that way. All right, our county data finder lets you create your own list of property owners. So you can get out of state or absentee owners. You can limit it to commercial properties, multifamily, single family, whatever you're looking for. And there's all kinds of criteria and ways you can narrow your list and make it just a really focused list to market to for whatever you're looking for. So all those things are in our deal finding suite along with MLS Deal Finder, which lets you get a notification of new properties on the MLS that meet your criteria. As soon as they come on the market, you'll get an email with all that information as well. All right, and then I mentioned we have a basic deal analysis calculator, which can handle most just flips, a basic rental. But if you want a more involved one, these are awesome calculators to help you really analyze commercial deals as well. So, and we are not going to leave you out in the cold. We've got our customer service team. They answer the phone. Worst case, it's a 2-hour response. All right, so we also have some freebies for you. So if you want to get heat map reports, kind of show you where the discounted deals are, where the pre-foreclosure deals, where the rental income deals. And we also have our deal of the day, which is a live deal off the MLS that we broadcast and analyze with our system. And so you can, it's a good educational tool to kind of see what's out there in the market, but it's also a live deal you can make an offer on if you wanted. So just add that to your poll questions there, whatever you like, and we'll get you hooked up. And if you missed anything about Real Estate IQ, want to know more information, or missed the opportunity to request a demo earlier, please go ahead and put that in the chat. And we've actually got one of our account managers here with you that can call you right after this and answer your questions and help you get started. All right, so there is Kaylee's contact information again. So at this time, we're going to open it up to any other questions and answers. All right, Dennis wants to know more about investing in notes. Kind of like you're the bank, so it's a really good thing.
Does anybody have any questions for me or for Real Estate IQ for Becky?
Hi, Becky. This is Steve Washko. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, hi Steve, how are you?
Hey, Becky. Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. You had mentioned that Real Estate IQ has 45,000 new leads every month. I haven't explored all of those categories that you just showed us on your screen, but wondering if you had any advice for me. We're about to have an assistant start texting, hopefully over like 1,000 new leads a day, if we can, get a hold of that many leads. So, very attractive to have the 45,000 new leads. The few that I've looked at so far, like evictions, divorces, those are more like in the hundreds, it seems, right, rather than the thousands. Can you help me with where the tens of thousands? We really want to get as many leads as possible to, text, like I said, over 1,000 a day. Where are those leads?
Sure.
What lists are those in?
Yeah, the other leads come from the county data finder. So like those absentee owners, have you played around with that at all?
Not yet. Mm-mm.
Okay, yeah, go there because you can create a list of absentee owners who have equity because they've owned their house at least 10 years, for example. Maybe you can limit it to people who are not owning their property in an LLC, which means they're probably not really an experienced investor, or someone who might just have an extra house and be open to selling it. So there's all kinds of ways you can narrow your search to zip code, subdivision even. So you can get another list of people there. And then you'd need to skip trace them if you're going to do the calling or texting. But we have that on our site as well.
Okay, so really to get at the list of the thousands, that would really only be in the county data finder. The rest are probably in the hundreds. Is that correct?
No, it's actually, the average has been around 2,000 a month per metro area.
Okay.
For the other leads.
And for the county data finder, then are those thousands or tens of thousands of new leads every month? Is that because just, situations are changing for people and the county is getting that many new updates every month when you say 45,000 new leads?
No, they're not necessarily new leads. They're just
okay.
leads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for asking.
Sure, thank you. Actually, one more quick question, if I could, while I have you. This might be too detailed for the purpose of this call, but maybe you have some advice, or maybe you already know. We looked at the divorces, and some of them say that it was added to the Real Estate IQ file, the particular divorce, just yesterday. But when we looked at the court filing date of the divorce, it was like back in 2016. Is that sort of an anomaly, or is that like old data, but now they got maybe married and divorced again, and they're just sort of saying historical? Why is that?
That's what I would say. That means there's been more than one filing. So either they filed in 2016 and then changed their mind and never completed the divorce, or they, like you said, it could be the person got it and got somebody else. If that's on our list, if you send it into customer service, our team can check into that for you and get more information.
Okay, but it is a constant fresh list. You guys are pulling the latest, court filings, so we probably, shouldn't be concerned that, that data is old. Like you said, it could be for any of those reasons you just explained.
Yes, exactly. It's always the new filings.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, Becky, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Becky, this is Dennis. I was calling to ask you a kind of a follow-up question on the last question that was asked about the county data finder. The information there with regards to absentee landlords or absentee owners, that's not available in the Houston market. Is that correct?
Absentee is. The only thing that's not available in the Houston market is the over 65.
Over 65, okay.
Yeah. Harris County, might be another county that does in Houston actually, but Harris County does not allow that information to be public knowledge like DFW area does.
Okay, great. And then the point that Kaylee had made around passive house notes, she referenced the REIQ site. Do you know where on the REIQ site I could go to learn more or find more information out about passive house notes?
Yeah, if you go on the community, if you go to Marketplace and to notes, so there are people on here. This is like Eddie Speed does this note school that teaches you everything you need to know about investing in notes. And some of these are just, I guess, financial services funds that you can invest your money with in a note, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're right. Eddie Speed, he does a lot of speaking about them. I purchased mine through Kristen at Capricorn Mortgage Investments. So that's where I have two. I just didn't meet Eddie yet, but so far, performers are good.
Okay, yeah, and absolutely. And if you're just looking to invest some of your money, some of the hard money lenders like ILS that you find on the funding page, they do that as well. ILS, you can invest in notes with them. Blink Lending, they use your money, you invest it with them and they use your money to finance hard money loans for investors and stuff like that too. So those are all different avenues. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. All right, anyone else?
So Sam and Zach Notaries asked, what is the minimum investment for apartment investment? There's a range depending on how experienced the sponsors are and how much they're raising. So the industry average is about $50,000 to start. However, we're working, and it's not passed yet or whatnot, but at the end of the year, so this is going to be kind of complicated, but basically industry average is 50K. We've had deals where I've done, when I was very, very new, I did 25K so that all my friends could get in at a small amount. And then we've had deals that were like, an $8 million raise. So we did 100K. So it just depends on how big it is and all these things. Now at the end of the year, we do those investments through Regulation D as in Delta, 506B, the buddy offering. And there's also 506C, which I call the commercial offering because you can like have commercials and advertise. But for the C offering, you have to be accredited. That's why that quiz I mentioned earlier, that's very important to fill that out because it will tell you if you're accredited, if you're sophisticated, if you're neither. And then basically at the end of it, it has a pop-up video to book a call with me to figure out what your next steps are. If you're neither, there's still a resource for that. But at the end of the year, or it's supposed to be Q3 this year, but with slowdowns, I'm guessing it'll be Q4. There's a thing called Reg CF, or regulation crowdfunding. So regulation crowdfunding right now allows for us to take pretty much everyone that waives their right to a problem and that they have sufficient knowledge to invest, that they've read all the offering documents, they understand the risks, that they've done all that stuff. But basically to where you can raise smaller amounts and do more or offer it to more people. Right now, the Reg CF tops out at 1,070,000. And they're changing at the end of the year for us to be able to take on 5 million, I believe is what they said it was. So by the end of the year, that will change. But right now, the industry standard is about 50,000. Because when we do Reg CF, I think you can do like 1,000 at a time. You can have your grandma invest. So we'll see when that changes. But for now, 50K is the average. Any other questions? There was one at the beginning asking about how COVID will affect people who live in apartments. I think I kind of covered the apartments that, really pay attention to changing the air filters, making sure that it's a individual HVAC, cleaning, especially community areas, and we're adding like a little on the ground floor, those apartments, we're adding in like a little fenced yard as an added option, so that people can have their own private space instead of community spaces. So just trying to be creative. So there's going to be some products and things I'm sure that will come out that will help us be able to do that on a small scale. So just, yeah, that would help. But people will be hesitant to live close quarters. And like I mentioned earlier, they may be, but I think as a necessity because of lack of jobs, so therefore lack of income, it would make more sense to, you know, live in a house and have roommates, and or save money, move into an apartment, and then again have roommates, which like obviously we don't care. You can have 4 roommates, we don't care. That was, I think, that answer. Yeah, I think I answered that earlier. Kaylee, did this pandemic decrease the number of deals reaching you? Actually, it increased. I have been blown up this last 2 weeks. It's nuts. Like, because there's 3 different things happening. So right now there are 6,000 commercial mortgages, and it doesn't differentiate. And that's from Metechi. Metechi is a company with data. So they published this report that CMBS loans, that first of all, 6,000 forbearances have been granted. So they're qualified, they're taking it for commercial properties. 26% of those have been CMBS loans. So that's specifically it's a multifamily loan. So do the math, 26% of 6,000, whatever that is, that's the amount of deals or apartments in the United States under that loan, CMBS, that are now essentially in default. So those are the ones I've spent a lot of time this last week talking to lenders from all the big brokerage houses to figure out, you know, again, how do we lend on our next deal? And also, hey, you know, I'm going to keep calling you every couple of weeks, and let's keep me up to date with, you know, someone that's having trouble. So usually forbearance is a sign that there's not enough cash flow to float the business. There's not enough reserve capital to float the business. And so for us, you know, I'll just give a secret out there from the people that are way more experienced than me. And you have to have those people in your corner. But so people that have gone through the last couple, not the 29 to 39 Great Depression, but the last recession that we had, they basically made it through by putting aside about $1,000 a door. So like if you had 100 units, 100K aside just for extra reserves, just in case you get to the point where people are not paying or something happens, you know? So for us, what we're doing is we're doubling that. So we're doing 2,000 per door just to be extra safe, to make sure that that's there. Plus the lender normally will actually require you to put lender required reserves aside first of all anyway. So it's usually $250 to $350, just $300, you know, per unit pretty much. And so for that, it's your safeguard, right? So we've put a lot of safeguard aside just in case I assume this is going to last for sure, like a bad year. And then it's going to take 3 years in total to come back like to where we were. But actually, so it's increased the number of deals, but they're weird. So CMBS, I don't like that loan structure, but they're coming back. And then first, and then when you have a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac multifamily loan that I've been sent, it's really interesting because they're sending you or me assumptions. So they don't want to sell and let you do fresh debt. So for example, that's somebody that has a deal or an apartment that they only bought like last year. So they bought and they want out because usually if you look at it, their leverage is super high. So they're at like 80%, 90%. Some people are freaking at 100%, like meaning they had the primary debt at 80, then they had someone else, a private equity, come in at 10 or 20%. And so they're like 100% leveraged, you know, and that's again, back to our issues we had before where it's not just non-prime loans, but on top of that, you're over leveraged and you can't afford it. So, and they don't have adequate reserves too. So these are probably new people that over leveraged. So when they're coming to me saying, do you want to buy this? I'm like, guys, you have a loan on it and you have like a $3 million prepayment penalty. So I can't get fresh debt, meaning I can't get interest only terms for the construction we need. And on top of that, usually they'll have a second loan too. So I'm like, what do you want me to do with that? So the sign is that, you know, they're getting frantic right now. Like, okay, yikes, like we don't have a problem yet, but we're going to. Let's see if we can get someone to overpay, and no one is overpaying anymore. That's just dumb. So I bet you within the next 120 days or so, those people are probably going to have to just come to terms with the fact that they need to pay their own prepayment penalty. And instead of like what they would have gotten last year selling at the right time would have been like, you know, a $3 million profit, you know, they may make like a $500,000 profit or a $1 million profit. They're going to have to deal with, you know, eating it. Or if they wait any longer, they may get into a position where they make zero profit. So I think one thing we'll see at the end of the year too is even more deals coming, because the banks, they usually at the end of the year want to clean up their balance sheet. And so if you have people that are non-performers, non-paying, stuff like that, they want to clean up their portfolio. So I just see nothing but more coming. And the ones like, I talked to someone from CBRE on Friday, and she goes, you do know that, you know, listings are getting pulled from the market all the time. And I'm like, that's great. Because guess what that means? Those are the people that are not desperate to sell. They don't have like a motivation, and we want motivated sellers. I want to bail somebody out of a bad situation. So the ones that like stay on market, they have to sell. There's something going on. So that's a long answer to, I'm seeing lots of deals, and I'm trying to just really be a bug in everyone's ear so that they keep me updated on new ones. Thanks. What are the markets where you are looking for new opportunities? Kaylee did this pin. Oh, yeah. New opportunities. So like I've got a $1.5 million 1031 exchange right now. And so like I mentioned earlier, we're probably only going to purchase around 3 million so that the leverage is only like 60% or so. So that person who gave me that exchange, his requirements are that he wants a minimum of 10% cash on cash return, which is something we always target. It's the norm for us anyway. But because of just how things are in primary markets, you're looking at cap rates that are like freaking 4% in Austin. And like, you know, they were getting squished down to 5 in Dallas, and now they're like mid 5s. They went up a little bit in January. But anyway, so I am looking in Dallas and Fort Worth, especially. Fort Worth, I think, has been ignored, and it's a great area, especially Northwest, you know, North Richland Hills and stuff. San Antonio, Austin for sure. Houston, a little bit. We're trying to stick with North Houston because we already have some properties in Northwest Houston. And we've had success with them. And there's a lot of hotels, well, were hotels and new retail and stuff coming in. So that'll come back at some point, but it would just be a discount for now because you just have less foot traffic. So Dallas, so pretty much all the major markets in Texas, but because this certain exchange is going to need a 10% cash on cash return, and we need to kind of find something within the next like 30 days or less that meets our other really high standards, I'm probably going to have to go back out into a secondary or tertiary market, just like I did with these 2 little deals that I personally have. But I mean, with under a year, you know, we're getting literally, I got the new appraised value, estimated new appraised value by the county, and one is almost triple what we bought it for. So I'm like, so y'all think that it's worth this much? But obviously we're going to protest and get it back down to where it was. But we kind of knew that was going to happen. So great returns, I kind of have to go out of the city. So I am open to certain smaller deals. We got those at 20 and 21K a door. So, and non-renovated, it was just like an awesome situation. So, well, you know what, if you have more questions, just go to the very top of this chat and there's a link to go to the group. And if you ask questions in the group, we can all see them. And you can ask as many as you want. So I'll answer this one and then we'll go. And then if you want more, I'll get notified that it's in there. And you just have to put it like to Kaylee or whatever, at Kaylee, I think. Last one, does the target cap rate change depending on the number of units? And that has nothing to do with it. The target cap rate changes based on the infill cap rate. So if you're looking at a market, you have to look at the average of the infill, so meaning the city. So you go, I pull a CoStar report, and it's the full CoStar report, and you look at, you know, kind of like comps for rent, last sales, all this stuff, and you kind of compare it to at the last sale of these large properties, what were the cap rates that they were selling at? So that's kind of your average infill cap. And the cap rate is a little bit more tied to the quality of the property, if you will. So the higher the cap rate, the more unstabilized it is. And for me, that means, hey, the better it is. The more unstabilized, that means I stabilize it, I make a crap ton of money. And the more stabilized it is, that's just a different type of investment where someone might want someone that's already like me. I've already done all the work. I've already made it all stable, put good tenants in there. I've renovated everything, and it's now smooth. All they have to do is like change the business plan and the operating a little bit to make a little more money, but they don't have all the headaches I've been going through. I just do the hard stuff first to make more money. So anyway, so that based on the stability of the project is based on the cap rate, plus the infill cap rate of the city, or metro. MSA, Metro Statistical Area. Yeah, so that's where you can connect with me. If y'all have any more questions, please just hit me up there. I'm happy to answer. I constantly read, constantly learn, so I'm happy to share.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Thanks everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
See y'all next week on Saturday.